Thomas Miller had always loved the sea. Even as a small boy, he would stand at the edge of the cliffs near his home in Cornwall, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. Now, at 34 years old, he was finally living his dream as an oceanographer. The morning was crisp and clear as Thomas boarded the research vessel. His heart beat quickly with excitement. Today was special. After years of planning, he would test a new deep-sea submersible that could go farther down than any human had gone before. All systems checked, Dr. Miller, said Robert, his assistant. The Mariana is ready for her first deep dive. Thomas nodded and climbed into the small craft. It was barely bigger than a car, with thick walls made to withstand the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. As the crane lowered the submersible into the water, Thomas took a deep breath. He had trained for this moment, but nothing could prepare him for what waited in the darkness below. Commencing dive, he said into his radio. Current depth 50 meters and descending. As he sank deeper, the blue water around him grew darker. By 500 meters, he needed the craft's powerful lights to see. Strange fish with huge eyes and sharp teeth swam past his viewport. This was a world few humans had ever seen. Hours passed as Thomas went deeper and deeper. His instruments beeped steadily, recording data about water pressure, temperature, and oxygen levels. At 3,000 meters, he was already deeper than most submersibles could go. But the Mariana was designed to reach 7,000 meters, the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth. Current depth 6,000 meters, Thomas reported, his voice calm despite his racing heart. All systems functioning normally. Just then, something flashed in his lights. Thomas adjusted his position to get a better look. It wasn't a fish or any sea creature he recognized. The movement was too purposeful. I'm seeing something unusual, he said into his radio. Moving to investigate. Static was his only answer. He was too deep for clear communication now. Thomas carefully steered the Mariana toward the mysterious object. As he got closer, he could see it was some kind of structure, not natural, but built. Smooth curves and straight lines formed what looked like an entrance to a cave, but one that was clearly made by intelligent hands. Impossible, Thomas whispered to himself. No human had ever built anything this deep. Then he saw her. Swimming gracefully through the water was a woman, or at least, a being that looked like a woman. Her skin glowed with a soft blue light, and her long hair floated around her head like seaweed. Where humans would have legs, she had a powerful, fish-like lower body. Her eyes were large and dark, perfectly adapted to see in the deep ocean. Thomas froze, his finger hovering over the camera button. The being swam closer to his craft, seemingly unafraid. She placed a hand against his viewport, her webbed fingers spreading wide. Their eyes met. In that moment, Thomas knew he was looking at someone not from Earth. Or perhaps from a version of Earth humans had never known existed. The woman-like being tilted her head, studying him with clear intelligence. She made a gesture, beckoning him to follow, then swam toward the entrance of the structure. Thomas hesitated. Should he follow? Every scientific instinct told him to document this encounter, return to the surface, and report his findings. But something deeper pulled at him, a sense of wonder and discovery that had drawn him to the ocean in the first place. With careful movements, he guided the Mariana after the glowing figure. The structure opened into a tunnel that sloped downward, illuminated by the same blue light that came from the being's skin. As Thomas followed her into the unknown depths, he realized his life would never be the same. The ocean had always kept secrets, but none as incredible as this. Who was she? Where did she come from? How could anything human-like survive the crushing pressure and cold of the deep sea? The answers waited ahead, in the glowing blue darkness. The tunnel seemed to go on forever. Thomas followed the glowing woman through twists and turns that his instruments couldn't map properly. His depth gauge had stopped working, and his compass spun wildly. Only the lights of his submersible and the blue glow of his strange guide showed the way forward. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a vast underwater space. Thomas gasped. Before him spread an entire city. Buildings made of some crystal-like material rose from the ocean floor. They were shaped like spirals and curves that no human architect would design. Everything glowed with the same blue light as the woman's skin. More beings like her swam between the buildings. Some looked at the submersible with curiosity. Others seemed afraid and darted away. Thomas counted at least 30 of them before he stopped trying. "This is impossible," he whispered to himself. His training as a scientist told him that nothing human-like could live at this depth. The pressure alone should crush any living thing with lungs or blood like humans have. His guide turned and made a gesture toward a large structure in the center of the city. It looked like a dome with an opening at the top. Thomas carefully steered the Mariana toward it, his heart pounding in his chest. As they reached the dome, Thomas noticed something even stranger. Inside the structure was not water, but air. The opening was covered by some kind of invisible barrier that kept the water out but let solid objects through. The woman swam up to the barrier and passed through it easily, emerging into the air-filled space. She turned and beckoned to him again. Thomas checked his oxygen levels. He had enough for several hours. Slowly, he guided the submersible toward the barrier. He felt resistance, then a strange popping sensation as the craft pushed through. Inside the dome, Thomas opened the hatch of his submersible. The air smelled fresh, not stale like he expected. It was warm too, and he took off his heavy dive suit. Cautiously, he climbed out onto a smooth platform. The woman stood watching him. Up close, she was even more strange and beautiful. Her skin was pale blue with patterns that swirled and changed slightly, like light reflecting on water. Her eyes were large and completely black, with no visible pupils. Her hands had long fingers with thin webbing between them. Where legs would be on a human, her body became more fish-like, covered in small scales that caught the light. "Hello," Thomas said, his voice shaking a little. "My name is Thomas Miller. I'm a human from the surface." The woman smiled. Then, to his shock, she spoke. "We know of humans," she said. Her voice was musical, with sounds that rose and fell like waves. "I am called Lyra in your language. Welcome to our city, Aqualise." Thomas stared in amazement. "You speak English?" Lyra laughed, a sound like water bubbling over rocks. "We have studied your kind for many years. Your languages are simple compared to ours." She gestured for him to follow her down a pathway that led deeper into the dome. Thomas walked slowly, taking in everything around him. The inside of the dome was filled with gardens of strange plants that looked like a mix of coral and trees. Other beings moved around, some swimming in water-filled channels that ran through the structure, others walking on tail-like lower bodies. "What are you?" Thomas finally asked. "Where did you come from?" Lyra stopped and turned to him. "We have always been here, Thomas Miller. Before your kind built cities, before you learned to sail on the surface of our world, we were here in the deep places." "But that's not possible," Thomas said. "Humans have explored." "Humans have barely touched the true depths," Lyra interrupted. "Your science is young. There are many things you do not yet understand." She led him to a round room with a table in the center. On the table was a globe that showed Earth, but with markings Thomas didn't recognize. "We need your help, Thomas," Lyra said, her voice becoming serious. "The oceans are changing. Your people dump poison into our home. The waters grow warmer. Many of our kind have already died." Thomas felt a wave of shame wash over him. He knew about ocean pollution and climate change, but he had never imagined there were intelligent beings suffering because of it. "Why show yourselves to me now?" he asked. "Because time runs short," Lyra replied. "And because you have a kind heart. We have watched you study the oceans with care and respect. Will you help us, Thomas Miller? Will you be the bridge between our worlds?" Before Thomas could answer, a loud alarm sounded from his submersible. Thomas ran back to his submersible. Red warning lights flashed inside the small craft. The alarm meant only one thing: the oxygen system was failing. Without it working properly, he would never make it back to the surface. "What's wrong?" Lyra asked, following him quickly. My oxygen system, Thomas explained, checking the gauges with shaking hands. Something damaged it. Maybe the pressure from coming down so deep. Lyra looked at the machine with curious eyes. Our air here is different from what you breathe above. It will not sustain you for long. Thomas felt a cold fear grip his heart. He was trapped. The submersible could still move, but without oxygen, he would die before reaching the surface. How long can you stay in our air? Lyra asked. Maybe 12 hours before I start feeling sick, Thomas said. But I need the submersible's oxygen to return home. Lyra placed a webbed hand on his arm. Then we must fix it. Come with me. She led Thomas through the strange city to a building that looked like a giant shell. Inside, an older male of her kind worked with tools Thomas had never seen before. Lyra spoke to him in a language that sounded like singing mixed with dolphin clicks. The older male, whom Lyra introduced as Nereus, examined the oxygen system from Thomas's submersible. His fingers moved with surprising speed and skill over the machine. Your technology is simple but different from ours, Nereus said in heavily accented English. We can help, but it will take time. While they waited, Lyra showed Thomas more of Aqualise. They walked through gardens of glowing plants and past pools where young ones of her kind played in the water. Thomas learned that they called themselves the Mare, and they had lived in the deep oceans for thousands of years. We once lived closer to the surface, Lyra explained as they stood on a balcony overlooking the city. But as humans spread across the land and began to sail the seas, we moved deeper to avoid being seen. But how do you survive the pressure? Thomas asked. At this depth, human bodies would be crushed. Lyra smiled. Our bodies are different. We have special blood and bones. And our city has technology that creates a bubble of protection around us. Thomas looked up at the dome above them. Is that why my instruments stopped working properly? Some kind of energy field? Yes, Lyra nodded. It hides us from your sonar and other devices. You found us only because I wanted you to. But why me? Thomas asked. Before Lyra could answer, a group of Mare approached them. Unlike the friendly faces Thomas had seen so far, these looked angry. Their skin glowed with pulses of red and orange instead of blue. The leader, a tall male with scars across his chest, spoke harshly to Lyra. Thomas couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. The newcomer was not happy about his presence. Marius believes humans cannot be trusted, Lyra explained quietly to Thomas. Many of our kind agree with him. They have seen what your people do to the oceans. Marius pointed at Thomas and continued speaking angrily. He says you should not be allowed to return to the surface, Lyra translated. He fears you will reveal our location to other humans who might harm us. Thomas felt a surge of panic. I would never do that. I understand why you need to stay hidden. Lyra nodded and spoke back to Marius in their language. The argument grew heated, with other Mare joining in on both sides. Finally, an elderly female approached. Everyone fell silent as she spoke. Her movements were slow but powerful, and her skin glowed with a deep purple light. This is Thalassa, Lyra whispered to Thomas. Our eldest and wisest. She makes the final decisions in difficult matters. Thalassa studied Thomas for a long moment, her ancient eyes seeming to look into his very soul. Then she spoke directly to him in perfect English. Thomas Miller, you have been given a great trust by being brought here, she said. Before you leave, you must understand what is at stake. She gestured, and the center of the floor opened up. A platform rose, carrying what looked like a large egg made of crystal. This is the heart of the sea, Thalassa said. It keeps our city alive and protected. But it is dying because of changes in the ocean. The warming waters, the chemicals your kind dumps into the sea, all of it weakens the heart. The crystal egg pulsed with blue light, but Thomas could see dark spots spreading within it like a disease. If the heart dies, Thalassa continued, so does Aqualise. And all who live here. Thomas stared at the crystal egg, the heart of the sea. Its blue light flickered like a dying flame. Dark patches spread across its surface in angry patterns. "Can't you fix it?" he asked. Thalassa shook her head slowly. The heart responds to the ocean around it. As the waters sicken, so does our power source. We have tried everything we know. That's why I brought you here, Lyra said. We need human science to help us understand what's happening to our home. Marius made a sharp sound of disagreement. Many of the watching Mare seemed to share his doubts. Thomas could understand their fear. Humans had never been good caretakers of the ocean. I want to help, Thomas said firmly. But I need to return to the surface first. I need equipment, other scientists who know more than I do about pollution and climate change. Thalassa considered his words. And if we let you go, what guarantees do we have that you will not betray our location? Or that those you bring will not harm us? It was a fair question. Thomas thought carefully before answering. I can't offer you any guarantee except my word. But I promise you this, I will only tell those who need to know, and only those I trust completely. Nereus approached, carrying the oxygen system from the submersible. It is fixed, he announced. But I have made some improvements. It will now work better in deep water. Thomas thanked him, relief washing over him. At least now he had a chance to return home. Thalassa raised her hand for silence as the Mare began discussing among themselves again. We will vote, she announced. As we have always done when facing great decisions. The voting process was beautiful to watch. Each Mare approached the heart and placed their hand upon it. As they did, their skin would glow either blue for yes or red for no. Thomas couldn't tell what question exactly they were answering, but he assumed it was about whether to trust him. Marius's skin glowed bright red when he touched the heart. Many others followed his example. But more, including Lyra and Nereus, glowed blue. When all had voted, Thalassa approached Thomas. It is decided. You may return to your world, but you must promise to come back within 7 days. If you do not, or if you bring harm to us, we will make sure no human ever finds us again. Thomas nodded solemnly. I will return. You have my word. Before he left, Lyra gave him a small object that looked like a smooth stone made of the same crystal as the heart. Keep this with you, she said. It will help you find your way back to us. And it contains information about what is happening to our ocean, data your scientists can study. As Thomas prepared to leave, he found it hard to say goodbye to Lyra. In just a short time, he had come to admire her courage and intelligence. I will come back, he promised her. I know you will, she replied, touching his hand gently. The heart showed me your true nature when I first saw you through the viewport of your craft. That's why I chose to reveal myself to you. Thomas climbed back into his submersible. The oxygen system hummed with new life, improved by Nereus's skilled hands. With one last look at the gathered Mare, he guided his craft through the barrier and back into the open ocean. The journey to the surface seemed to take forever. Thomas's mind raced with questions and plans. Who could he trust with this discovery? How could he help the Mare without exposing their existence to those who might exploit them? As the submersible finally broke the surface, Thomas saw his research vessel waiting. His team had been searching for him for hours, worried when he stopped responding to communications. Thomas! Thank God! Robert shouted as he climbed aboard. What happened down there? We thought we'd lost you. Thomas clutched the crystal stone in his pocket and took a deep breath of the salty air. You wouldn't believe me if I told you, he said. But I need to make some calls. There are people we need to bring here right away. That night, alone in his cabin, Thomas studied the crystal Lyra had given him. When he held it up to the light, it projected strange symbols onto the wall, data about ocean temperatures, chemical compositions, and other readings he didn't understand. He knew he was now part of something much bigger than himself. The fate of an entire civilization rested partly in his hands. And he had only 7 days to figure out how to save them. 6 days had passed since Thomas returned to the surface. He had hardly slept, working around the clock with a small team of trusted scientists. His old professor, Dr. Eleanor Wells, an expert in marine biology. His college friend James Parker, who specialized in ocean pollution. And his cousin Emma, who worked for an environmental protection agency. Thomas had told them everything, showing them the crystal and the strange data it contained. At first, they didn't believe him. But the crystal's technology was proof enough that something extraordinary existed in the deep. The readings are clear, Dr. Wells said, looking up from her computer. The chemicals from the new drilling platform 20 miles from here are creating a deadly combination in the deep water. If they continue drilling, the toxins will reach critical levels within months. Can we stop it? Thomas asked. James nodded. I've analyzed the legal aspects. The drilling company violated 6 environmental protection laws. We have enough evidence to shut them down immediately. Emma was already making calls, using her government connections. By morning, the drilling operation had been suspended pending investigation. But Thomas knew this was just the beginning. The damage already done would take years to heal. And the heart of the sea needed help now. I think I understand how the heart works, Dr. Wells said, studying the data from the crystal. It's like a living filter for the ocean. It removes toxins and balances the chemistry of the water around it. But it's overwhelmed now. Can we help it recover? Thomas asked. Yes, she said. I developed a compound that should neutralize the specific toxins that are harming it. But it needs to be applied directly to the heart. Today was the 7th day. Time to return to Aqualise. The submersible descended through the dark water, but this time Thomas wasn't alone. Dr. Wells sat beside him, nervous but determined. They had decided only one other person should come on the first visit. The crystal stone glowed brighter as they approached the hidden city. Then Thomas saw Lyra waiting for them at the entrance to the tunnel. Her blue glow seemed dimmer than before. When they reached the air-filled dome and emerged from the submersible, Thomas made introductions. This is Dr. Eleanor Wells. She believes she can help the heart. Lyra studied the older woman with curious eyes. You have kept your promise, Thomas. But has it been enough time to find a solution? Dr. Wells explained her findings and the compound she had created. Thalassa and the council listened carefully. Even Marius seemed less hostile, though still wary. The drilling that caused the worst damage has been stopped, Thomas added. But the heart needs immediate help to recover. Thalassa led them to the chamber where the heart pulsed weakly. The dark patches had grown, covering almost half its surface now. Dr. Wells approached it respectfully. May I? She asked. When Thalassa nodded, Dr. Wells carefully applied the compound she had created to the crystal's surface. For a few moments, nothing happened. Then slowly, the dark patches began to recede. The blue glow strengthened. A cheer went up from the gathered mare. Lyra grabbed Thomas's hand, her skin glowing brightly with happiness. It's working, Dr. Wells said, smiling. But this is just temporary. The ocean itself needs to heal for the heart to fully recover. We have begun that process too, Thomas assured her. Emma and James are working with authorities to create a protected zone above Aqualise. No ships, no drilling, no fishing will be allowed in this area. Thalassa approached Thomas and placed her hands on his shoulders. You have proven that not all humans bring destruction, she said. Perhaps it is time for our peoples to work together again, as we did in the ancient days before fear drove us apart. Again? Thomas asked, surprised. Thalassa smiled. There are many stories in your human myths about people of the sea. Not all of them are just stories. In the days that followed, a careful partnership formed. More trusted scientists were brought to Aqualise. The Mare shared their knowledge of the deep ocean, their advanced understanding of marine life. The humans shared their technology and their commitment to protecting the waters that both peoples called home. Thomas spent more and more time in the underwater city. He learned the Mare language and their ways. And his friendship with Lyra grew into something deeper. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the now brightening city, Lyra took his hand. The heart is healing because two worlds came together, she said.
Perhaps there is a lesson in that. Thomas nodded.
Two very different peoples, but one ocean between us. Above them, the crystal dome showed the distant sunlight filtering down from the surface world.
Below them, the ancient city of Aqualise glowed with renewed life.
And Thomas knew he had found his true home, bridging two worlds in the depths of the sea.
The end.